Alright folks, let's talk about Megabonk. If you haven't played it yet, imagine a game that grabs the chaos of Vampire Survivors, mixes it with the scaling madness of Risk of Rain 2, and then sprinkles in just enough Dark Souls vibes to keep you on edge. Every run feels like a dopamine factory, and that's exactly why people can't put it down. But here's the catch, while every character is fun in their own way, some of them are absolute monsters that dominate the leaderboards. So in today's video, we're diving into the Megabonk tier list. We're going to break down which characters are sitting at the top of the meta, which ones are solid but not broken, and which ones you might want to avoid if you're chasing high scores. Whether you're a beginner just figuring things out or a veteran looking to push insane runs, this tier list is going to give you a clear picture of who's ruling the game right now. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking characters in Megabonk. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Athena, Vlad, Bandit, Fox, Sweetman, and Sir Chadwell. Not every hero in Megabonk is a powerhouse. Some of them are more like that one friend who insists on joining game night but spends the whole time misplaying. Let's talk about the C tier characters, the ones who technically work but only if you bend over backwards for them. First up is Athena. On paper she sounds incredible. Her shield, the Aegis, can actually turn into a damage dealing engine if you stack attack speed, size, and shield tomes. Add an aura or an axe and you might stabilize enough to push into tier 2. Plus, her shrine farming gives you a steady supply of silver and buffs in the late game. That all sounds lovely, right? The problem is, her early game is brutal. She deals weak damage, starts very slow, and forces you into pixel-perfect positioning. To make things worse, her slow movement speed makes dodging projectiles and boss pylons feel like wading through syrup. And if you do not get the right items or tomes, forget it. Athena is completely dependent on good drops, and a bad run feels like pulling teeth. Then we have Vlad, who feels like the edgy kid in class that only talks about blood rituals. His entire kit revolves around blood magic, which can be surprisingly strong in long boss fights. If you get him into his groove, he can really shine there. But outside of that specific build, Vlad is just plain weak. He is so specialized that if you cannot build around blood, he may as well not be on your roster. Bandit is next, and this guy is the definition of fun but gimmicky. His primary weapon is a blast to use if, and this is a big if, you pump a ton of investment into luck. Without that, it feels more like a party trick than a viable weapon. His passive bonus to attack speed sounds nice, but it is only really useful with certain item synergies. Otherwise, it limits your build variety instead of enhancing it. Oh, and let's not forget his mobility, or rather, the lack of it. You will find yourself constantly sweating dodges because Bandit just does not move well enough to keep up. Now, Fox is an oddball. This character can hit some absolutely insane speed thanks to bunny hop and slide mechanics. When it works, it feels hilarious and fun, like you are playing a totally different game. But here is the catch, it relies entirely on luck. You need perfect builds to make it viable, and the frustrating part is that other characters would perform way better with those exact same builds. On top of that, Fox is incredibly fragile. Even if you do get lucky, one slip up and you are back to square one. Spacemen might be the most heartbreaking entry in C tier. The idea is awesome. A thematic black hole weapon that can suck enemies in and control the crowd. If you fully upgrade it, that fantasy almost works. He even has a supposed passive experience gain, although right now it is bugged and only gives you silver instead. But let us talk about the reality. His early game is painful. The black hole weapon fires once every 7 seconds, deals a measly 4 base damage, lasts only 2 seconds, and to make things worse, it shrinks your aura size by a quarter. That is a cocktail of frustration. Movement does not help either. His low gravity jumps make him slower than even Mega Chad, and the floaty feel makes shrine mechanics and boss fights a nightmare. Overall, he ends up being one of the weakest unlocks in the entire game, and clearing tier 2 with him is a real struggle. And then we have Sir Chadwell, who is almost a tragic joke. On the bright side, his movement is surprisingly smooth for a knight and his mobility is decent enough. That is about where the good news ends. His weapon, the corrupted sword, feels like a wet noodle. It is just a weak front slash that does not scale well at all. Pair that with how difficult he is to unlock and you are left wondering why you even bothered. You would expect someone with such a tough unlock requirement to feel rewarding, but instead he feels weak and unsatisfying. Even if you tough it out, his scaling just falls behind every other character, making late game progression a complete slog. So, what do all of these characters have in common? They are technically playable, and yes, you can get a win with them, but they demand way too much investment, luck, or patience compared to the higher tier characters. Athena needs perfect positioning and items, Vlad is chained to blood builds, Bandit is a one-trick pony, Fox relies on broken movement, Spaceman is an unfinished science experiment, and Sir Chadwell is just sad. If you are someone who enjoys the challenge of taking the underdog and trying to make them work, C tier might be your playground. You can definitely flex your skill here. But for most players, these heroes feel more like punishment than fun. It is a shame too, because you can tell the developers had cool ideas with these characters. A goddess with a scaling shield, a blood mage, a slippery thief, a hyperspeed fox, a black hole astronaut, and a fallen knight. That is a roster full of flavor. Unfortunately, the execution just does not keep up with the fantasy. Still, I would not write them off completely. In games like Megabonk, patches and updates can flip the meta on its head. A single buff to Athena's movement speed, or a tweak to Spaceman's black hole could push them up a tier or two. But for now, these are the ones you pick if you are looking to suffer, or if you are making a YouTube video about how much you like suffering. And hey, sometimes that is the fun of it, right? Not every run has to be about efficiency. Sometimes you want to see how far you can push a broken character just for laughs. That said, if you are new to the game, maybe leave these guys on the bench until you're ready for a real challenge. Because at the end of the day, C tier is not about being completely useless. It is about being technically viable, but way more painful than it is worth. And honestly, that is kind of the most Megabonk thing imaginable. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Monkey, Ogre, Ninja, and Noelle. B tier is where things start to get interesting. These characters are not exactly top dogs, but they are solid picks if you know how to work around their quirks. Think of them as the middle children of Megabonk, sometimes overlooked, sometimes surprisingly reliable. Let's start with Monkey. This guy has some of the most unique movement in the game thanks to his high jump and wall climbing skills. Pair that with banana size and quantity upgrades, and suddenly you are bouncing all over the place like a caffeinated parkour artist. On top of that, Monkey comes with bonus health, which gives him a nice stability cushion compared to some of the glass cannons we talked about earlier. The downside, his damage scaling just cannot keep up with critical hit or gold-based builds. Monkey is fun, but if you want raw power, you will need to look elsewhere. Next up is Ogre, and this one is deceptively strong. His warrior passive gives him a flat 1% damage increase every single level, which sounds small until you realize how much that stacks over time. If you grab duration and size tomes, his spinning axes transform into deadly crowd control machines. Throw in an area of effect backup like Aura or the lightning staff, and suddenly you are clearing mobs like a lawnmower. The catch? His early game is rough. Farming experience without those key tomes feels like pulling weeds with a spoon. To make matters worse, Ogre desperately needs sustain and movement speed items like Beefy Ring or Turbo Socks just to stay alive long enough for his scaling to kick in. Now let's talk about Ninja, the slippery little menace. He has insanely high evasion potential, and his agile movement feels smooth and satisfying. Dodging through enemies like a shadow is awesome, until the game decides, nope, that does not count. Some boss skills completely ignore evasion, which makes his passive totally useless in fights like the tier 3 forest boss. To survive, Ninja needs a heavy investment in movement speed and jump height, which unfortunately slows down his damage scaling. It is a trade-off. You either live long enough to be irrelevant, or you die a stylish death trying. Finally, there is Noelle, the character that feels like she is stuck in beta testing. On paper, she has a cool niche as a potential support or regeneration-based character. She could combo well with armor regen builds and keep herself and maybe even others in the fight longer. But in practice, she feels undertuned. Every other character with a similar role just does it better. Noelle is like ordering a salad at a steakhouse. It technically makes sense, but you will definitely wish you had gone with something else. So what ties the B tier together? These characters are all workable, sometimes even great, but they come with noticeable flaws that keep them from climbing higher. Monkey's damage falls off, Ogre's early game is miserable, Ninja's passive fails at the worst possible times, and Noelle, well, she is just underwhelming. The fun part about B tier is that these characters can actually surprise you. With the right items and a little patience, Monkey or Ogre can turn a run around in hilarious fashion. Ninja gives you those anime-level dodge moments that make you feel like a pro, and even Noelle might get her day in the spotlight if future patches give her a little love. But for now, B tier is the land of good but not quite great. You can win with them, you can have fun with them, but if you are trying to dominate the meta, you are better off sticking to the higher tiers. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Calcium, Tony McZoom, Sir Ufi, Bush, Birdo, and Almog. Now we are cooking. A tier is where the real contenders live. Characters that feel powerful, rewarding, and genuinely fun to play. They are not quite at the break the game level of S tier, but they can absolutely carry you through tough runs if you know how to handle them. Let's break them down. We have to start with Calcium, the speed demon himself. His passive basically says, do not get hit and you will snowball into absurd levels of damage per second. Pair him with turbo skates and any speed-based on-hit build, and you are shredding everything in sight while zooming around the map like you just mainlined 3 energy drinks. The only downside? Getting hit resets your speed, which is brutal. It makes Calcium a high-skill character. You are rewarded if you play clean, but punished the second you slip up. Next on the list is Tony McZoom, who is basically Calcium's cousin that shows up to family reunions in a faster car. He starts with strong speed right out of the gate, and his better bone weapon actually rivals Calcium's mobility builds. He also gets no full damage, which makes him laugh at cliffs, and he scales beautifully with projectile count tomes. The catch? He does not quite hit the crit or gold scaling numbers that the absolute best characters reach. Also, some of his unique mobility gimmicks take a little practice to master. Once you get them down though, Tony McZoom feels buttery smooth. Then we have Sir Ufi, the Tank King. His armor scaling is no joke. It makes him one of the most forgiving starters in the entire roster. You can mess up dodges, eat some hits, and still keep going thanks to his natural bulk. He thrives on lifesteal, armor, and health regeneration builds, and when you itemize correctly, he feels nearly unkillable. But there is a catch, of course. If you do not stack area of effect damage, Sir Ufi falls off in the late game. He soaks damage like a champ, but he needs items to keep up offensively. Amog is next, and oh boy, this little guy is deceptively nasty. His bread and butter is poison combined with lifesteal, and when you throw in items like moldy cheese or the overpowered lamp, the synergy becomes disgusting. Add a black hole weapon with poison flasks and suddenly bosses melt before your eyes. The trade-off is his short bottle throw range, which makes early waves really sketchy unless you grab the right items fast. Amog is one of those characters that feels weak at the start but becomes terrifying by the mid-game. Moving on to Bush, who is essentially the sniper of Megabonk. His bullseye passive causes explosions on precision hits, and when you nail those shots, it absolutely deletes entire packs of enemies, sometimes even bosses. Combine that with precision or critical hit tomes, and the explosions stack into pure chaos. The downside? Bush requires excellent manual aim. If your accuracy is sloppy, you will never unlock his full potential, but in the right hands, he is a monster. Now let's talk about Birdo, one of the most stylish picks in the game. Birdo comes with a double jump and an optional glide, which makes him feel amazing to control. His tornado weapon is solid on its own, but when you pair it with critical hit and size builds, it can turn into an absolute storm of destruction. The key is smart itemization. Without the right crit and size gear, Birdo feels underwhelming. That is probably why he is still rare in the leaderboard meta, but if you commit to building him correctly, he can put in serious work. So, what ties all of these A-tier characters together? They are strong, versatile, and satisfying to play, but they are not foolproof. They demand a bit of mechanical skill, smart item choices, or just clean play to really shine. Calcium punishes you hard if you get sloppy. Tony McZoom has tricks you need to learn. Sir Ufi requires area of effect damage scaling, and Mog needs his poison gear. Bush demands perfect aim, and Birdo is only as good as your crit and size rolls. That said, a tier is where the fun factor really pops. These characters feel rewarding because they give back exactly what you put into them. If you are skilled and thoughtful, they make you look and feel unstoppable. And even if you are not perfect, they are forgiving enough that you can still get far. What I also love about this tier is how varied the playstyles are. Want to go fast? Calcium and Tony McZoom are your guys. Want to be a tank? Sir Ufi is right there. Want to poison everything to death? A Mog has you covered. Prefer precision explosions? That is Bush. Love aerial mobility and flashy tornadoes? Birdo is your pick. It shows how Megabonk's design shines when characters are strong but not busted. They each bring unique mechanics and flavor to the table without completely overshadowing the roster. And honestly, these are the characters that most players will find themselves gravitating towards once they have a little experience. They are reliable, rewarding, and fun to master. A tier is kind of the sweet spot where skill and creativity both matter. So if you're looking to push runs without locking yourself into the absolute meta picks, a tier is your playground. These characters may not be the gods of Megabonk, but they are definitely the heroes worth investing in. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Dicehead, CL, 4K, Robinette, and Megachad. S tier is where the true monsters live, the characters that break the game, flood the leaderboards, and make you wonder if the developers ever actually tested them. If you want to dominate Megabonk with as little pain as possible, these are your go-to picks. First up is Dicehead, who is basically the final boss disguised as a playable character. Right now, Dicehead is taking all the top spots on the leaderboards, and it is not hard to see why. His dice weapon gives permanent critical chance growth, which snowballs into disgusting amounts of damage. The best part is how versatile he is. Dicehead fits perfectly into both curse-heavy builds and pure critical hit builds, and once you hit the right synergies, he is unstoppable. The only downside is that you need time to stack that crit chance, so the early game can feel a little slow if luck is not on your side, but let's be honest, once you get rolling, Dicehead makes every other character look like a tutorial. Then we have CL or NK, the robot gunslinger with one of the strongest late game kits in the game. His revolver paired with the crit happens passive is a match made in heaven because every level you gain stacks more critical chance. By the late game, you are firing crits like it is a fireworks show. He synergizes beautifully with damage, critical damage, and attack speed tomes, and items like the overpowered lamp or gym source push him into pure chaos territory. To top it off, he has a shield, which makes shrine farming a little less terrifying. The downside, his early game is brutal. Without agility and attack speed tomes, farming experience feels like trying to mow a lawn with scissors. CL4 NK demands careful shrine planning and item choices, but if you pull it off, he becomes absurd. Next is Robinette, the queen of gold hoarding. Her bow gives consistent piercing damage and farming potential, but it is her stonks passive that makes her ridiculous. The longer you hold onto your coins, the more your damage and gold gains snowball. Add in tomes like experience, damage, attack speed, and quantity, and she starts printing wins out of thin air. She also pairs beautifully with area of effect backups like Aura, Bone, or Lightning Staff to handle large waves. But here is the kicker. If you spend too much early, she feels slow and clunky. Robinette is basically teaching you financial responsibility. Save your gold now, profit later. When you play her smart, she becomes one of the most powerful scaling characters in the game. And of course, we cannot forget Megachad. This guy is almost a meme at this point. His aura is a natural nuke, and once you stack enough size and cooldown reduction, entire screens of enemies just evaporate. On top of that, his flex passive gives you clutch invulnerability and stun windows, which can literally save runs at the last second. The only weakness here is mobility. Megachad feels sluggish early on, and dodging projectiles or shrine mechanics can be tough until you bulk up your defenses. But once you do, he lives up to his name. So what do all these characters have in common? They all scale into absolute insanity. Dicehead snowballs crits forever, CL for NK stacks until he breaks damage charts, Robinette gets rich and steamrolls, and Megachad flexes his way through everything. They each have a rocky early game in some way, but once you push past that hurdle, the payoff is ridiculous. S tier is also where you see the strongest synergies in the entire game. Whether it is critical hit stacking, gold hoarding, or turning your aura into a nuke, these characters thrive when you match them with the right tomes and items. They are versatile, they are powerful, and they are the reason leaderboards look the way they do. If you are new to Megabonk and you want to climb fast, S tier is the shortcut. These characters can carry you through mistakes, punish bosses, and still feel rewarding to master. They are the ones you pick when you are done experimenting and ready to dominate. At the end of the day, S tier is not just the best, it is the playground of broken mechanics, busted synergies, and characters that make you laugh out loud at how unfair the game feels in your favor. And honestly, that is exactly why we love them. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.